Hello and welcome. I am Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching News Night on DD India, your prime-time destination for news and bespoke analysis. It's good to see you again. All right, on the show tonight, India's total vaccination coverage nears the 80 million mark. I repeat, 80 million mark. Remember, India launched its vaccination drive on 16th January. It aims to vaccinate 250 million people by July in what is the largest inoculation campaign of its kind in the world. Also on the show, Home Minister Amit Shah visits Jagdalpur in Chhattisgarh, pays homage to the security personnel killed in a Maoist attack, and India to host Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and US Special Envoy for Climate John Kerry. Plus, we preview the Iran nuclear talks to be held in Vienna, the latest on the crisis brewing in Jordan, and legal and political drama unfolds in Israel as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stands trial on corruption charges, even as President Reuven Rivlin begins negotiations to help form a government there. All that and much more coming up over the next 1 hour. But first, as always, the headlines. Union Home Minister Amit Shah visits Bijapur CRPF camp, pays tribute to those martyred in the Naxal attack in Chhattisgarh, interacts with Jawans at CRPF camp, visits injured Jawans in Raipur after high-level meeting with CM Bhupesh Baghel and other officials, vows not to let the sacrifice of martyrs go in vain. Home Minister of Maharashtra Anil Deshmukh resigns after Bombay High Court orders a preliminary CBI investigation against him in response to Parambir Singh's plea alleging extortion. BJP hit starter Uddhav Thackeray's silence, calls the Mahavikas Aghadi as Mahavasuli or extortion government. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold a virtual meeting with chief ministers on 8th April over the coronavirus pandemic. Union Health Minister to meet CMs of 11 worst affected states on Tuesday. A mega awareness drive to be launched on Tuesday to drive home the message of masking up, hand washing and social distancing to tackle COVID-19. Bangladesh goes into a week-long complete lockdown to curb coronavirus cases. Mixed response across Europe, with France tightening its curbs. Greece and Portugal ease restrictions, while the UK also likely to announce opening up of businesses. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov to hold talks with Indian Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar on Tuesday to prepare the ground for the annual India-Russia summit. A host of other issues also on the cards. US Special Presidential Envoy for Climate John Kerry also touches down later tonight in a run-up to the Climate Leaders Summit later this month. Delhi records the hottest March in the last 11 years and the third warmest in the last 121 years. Indian Met Department declares 29th March as the hottest day in the March in 76 years, with mercury soaring up to 40.1 degrees Celsius. The BJP rubbishes Congress's allegations after a report in the French media claimed that Rafale manufacturer Dassault paid kickbacks to a middleman for the aircraft deal. The BJP asserts that the Supreme Court as well as the CAG have already given a clean chit to the deal. And the Chenab Bridge, said to be the world's highest at 500 and 359 meters above riverbed level, with the completion of the arch of the bridge. Prime Minister hails the achievement as a marvel of cutting-edge technology and India's changed work culture. Right, let me dive straight into our cover story on Newsnight. Union Home Minister Amit Shah's visit to Chhattisgarh, where he paid homage to security personnel killed in a Maoist attack. The Home Minister met the families of martyrs. He inquired about the well-being of those injured in the attack as well. and he vowed a befitting response to the latest provocation from the Maoists. More in the next report.
Home Minister Amit Shah on Monday visited Chhattisgarh, where 22 security personnel were killed in a Maoist attack 2 days ago. He not only paid tributes to the martyrs, but also visited a CRPF camp where he inquired about the well-being of those injured in the encounter. The minister visited the Jagdalpur police line on the first stop of his tour of Chhattisgarh. There, he paid floral tributes to the slain personnel. Chhattisgarh Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel accompanied the Home Minister. Afterwards, the Home Minister reviewed the security situation in a meeting with the central paramilitary officials, police and local administration. The minister said the union government would undertake certain measures on a war footing and give a befitting response to the Maoists.
मैं देश को विश्वास दिलाना चाहता हूं कि लड़ाई रुकेगी नहीं और गति के साथ आगे बढ़ेगी और इसको हम अंजाम तक ले जाएंगे। ये लड़ाई में अंत में नक्सलवादियों के खिलाफ हमारी विजय निश्चित है।
Union Home Minister Amit Shah visited 4 hospitals in Raipur. He spent a lot of time talking to the injured Jawans. He asked them about what happened as well as about the care they were getting. The Union Home Minister was seen conferring with doctors about the nature and the extent of injuries suffered by the Jawans. Earlier in Jagdalpur, Home Minister Amit Shah reassured the families of the slain security personnel that their sacrifices would not go in vain. For his part, Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel said the security personnel had shown exemplary courage by retaliating to the Maoists.
संकट की दुख की इस घड़ी में पूरा देश आपके साथ खड़ा है और आपके परिजनों का जो बलिदान है वो व्यर्थ नहीं जाएगा। इन्होंने जिस उद्देश्य के लिए अपना सर्वोच्च बलिदान दिया है वो उद्देश्य को हम जरूर सिद्ध करेंगे।
नक्सलियों को भारी क्षति इसमें हुई है और ये वो एरिया है जिसमें जो उनका गढ़ कहा जाता है, उनका केंद्र कहा जाता है और वहाँ हमारे लगातार कैंप खुल रहे हैं। मिनिमम पिछले समय घटना घटी, पिछले साल घटना घटी थी, आज हमारे कैंप खुल गए, दर्रे में हमारे कैंप खुल गए। तो इस प्रकार लगातार बढ़ते जा रहे हैं और इनकी बखलाहट है जिसके कारण से ये घटना घटी है।
The Home Minister travelled to Bijapur, where he met with the injured personnel at a CRPF camp. He also discussed about a roadmap for combating the Maoist problem with the officials from the union and state governments. The minister had lunch with the injured security personnel as well. Amit Shah further reiterated that the government would take the fight against the Maoists to a logical conclusion soon. Union Home Minister Amit Shah's visit to Chhattisgarh is a clear indicator of the government's commitment and concern for the welfare of our brave paramilitary forces. Bureau Report, DD India.
Right, time now for our In Focus segment in which we are discussing about Home Minister vows decisive action to end Maoist problem. And joining me is Mr. Dilip Trivedi, a former Director General of the Central Reserve Police Force or the CRPF. Mr. Trivedi, if you can hear me, welcome to Newsnight. Let me begin by asking you, Mr. Trivedi, help our viewers understand, those who are watching you tonight on Newsnight, help them understand the motivations of the Maoists for the latest provocation, why the attack and why now? Mr. Trivedi, can you hear me? We'll try to fix that video link with Mr. Trivedi in just a bit, but just to remind our viewers, we are discussing about Home Minister vowing decisive action to end the Maoist problem. And with us momentarily will be Mr. Dilip Trivedi, a former Director General of the Central Reserve Police Force or the CRPF, which is a paramilitary force of India. Mr. Trivedi, are you with us? I'm afraid we've lost that link with Mr. Trivedi. We'll try to fix that link with him in just a bit. But just to remind our viewers of the top story we are tracking here on Newsnight, the discussion on the latest Maoist provocation, in which many security personnel were killed in Chhattisgarh a couple of days ago. Right, moving on for now, I'm told we'll try to fix that link with Mr. Trivedi in just a bit. But moving on for now, Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh on Monday submitted his resignation to Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray. This after the Bombay High Court ordered a CBI probe into allegations of extortion against him by former Mumbai Police Chief Parambir Singh.
Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh facing the fallout of the plea filed by former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh. Deshmukh's resignation comes after the Bombay High Court ordered a CBI probe following Parambir's plea that has left the Maha Vikas Aghadi government in a tight spot since March 25th. After Anil Deshmukh tendered his resignation to Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, the NCP has asked the Chief Minister to accept it.
ये आदेश आने के बाद गृह मंत्री स्वयं अनिल देशमुख जी पार्टी के राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष पवार साहब से जाके मिले। उन्होंने इच्छा जाहिर की कि ये प्रिलिमिनरी इंक्वायरी चलते हुए मैं अपने पद पे नहीं रहना चाहता।
According to the criminal public interest litigation filed by Parambir Singh, Deshmukh had asked police officers, including suspended Assistant Police Inspector Sachin Vajay, who has been arrested in the case of bomb scare near industrialist Mukesh Ambani's residence here, to collect 100 crore rupees each month from bars and restaurants. While hearing the petition, the court ruled that Anil Deshmukh is the Home Minister and no impartial probe can be done by the police.
Within 15 days, CBI ने preliminary inquiry करनी है डायरेक्टर ने.
Meanwhile, the BJP has raised questions over the alarming silence of Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray over the whole issue.
हम भी जानते हैं कि शरद पवार के इशारे पर ही वो इस्तीफा देते या न देते, लेकिन हमारे उद्धव ठाकरे जी कब बोलेंगे? उनकी खामोशी कई सवाल खड़े कर रही है। सचिन वाजे की कहानी कहां तक जाएगी ये तो एनआईए बताएगी, लेकिन उसकी परत दर परत रोज खुल रही है।
गृह मंत्री का ये इस्तीफा बहुत पहले आना चाहिए था। जिस समय इस प्रकार के आरोप लगे, फिर पूर्व पुलिस कमिश्नर का पत्र आया, पूर्व कमिश्नर इंटेलिजेंस का रिपोर्ट खुला हुआ, इसमें से किस प्रकार से सरकार में रैकेट चल रहा है, ये सारी चीजें बाहर आई। सचिन वाजे इनके इन्वेस्टिगेशन में जो जो चीजें बाहर आई वो आश्चर्यचकित करने वाली थी। सारी चीजों में मुख्यमंत्री जी मौन रहे।
The growing trouble for the MVA seems to be touching the heights of Antillia. After all, it was outside Antillia, the South Mumbai residence of industrialist Mukesh Ambani, from where an explosive-laden car was found. The owner of the car was found dead under mysterious circumstances a few days later. Assistant Police Inspector of the Mumbai Police, Sachin Vajay, was involved in the bomb scare investigation. When the case was handed over to the CBI, Sachin Vajay was suspended. Following this, Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh was transferred by the state government. NCP Supremo Sharad Pawar had also backed Anil Deshmukh then. Seeing all this, Parambir Singh had approached the Bombay High Court, questioning Deshmukh's role as the Home Minister. Bureau Report, DD India.
And now to the other big story we are tracking here on Newsnight. India's fight against COVID-19 continues. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch a mega COVID-19 awareness drive on Tuesday. That and more in the next report.
In view of the increasing cases of COVID-19 in the country, the government is proactively taking appropriate steps to keep the situation under control. Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself is monitoring the situation. The Prime Minister will hold the next meeting with all Chief Ministers on Thursday, April 8th at 6:30 p.m. On Sunday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had chaired a high-level meeting to review the COVID-19 pandemic situation and vaccination program in the country. The Prime Minister directed that for sustainable COVID-19 management, awareness as well as community involvement is a must. The emphasis was laid on continuing Jan Bhagidari and Jan Andolan for COVID-19 management. On 6th of April, the Prime Minister will launch a mega COVID-19 awareness drive. The campaign will run from 6th to 14th April. As part of the drive, people will be motivated to adhere to the use of masks at all times.
रेगुलर मास्क लगाता हूं और मास्क से कोरोना का बचाव होता है।
पिछले 1 साल से मास्क लगा रहा हूं जिससे मुझे अभी तक कोरोना नहीं हुआ है।
सबसे अच्छी बात यह है कि सामने वाले अगर कोई वायरल चीजें छोड़ रहा है छींक से वगैरह से तो उससे प्रोटेक्ट करता है।
Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has given a unique slogan to boycott those who don't wear masks in public places.
यदि कोई बिना मास्क लगाए आएगा तो उससे बात नहीं करेंगे, मास्क नहीं तो बात नहीं।
The Union Health Minister will hold a meeting with the health ministers of 11 states on Tuesday at 6 p.m. to discuss the present situation. These are the states reporting the highest number of COVID-19 cases.
सबसे मेरी विनम्र अपील है, अपनी रक्षा के लिए, अपने परिवार के स्वास्थ्य की रक्षा के लिए, समाज के और देश के स्वास्थ्य की रक्षा के लिए कृपया कोविड एप्रोप्रिएट बिहेवियर को अपनाने में जरा भी चूक ना करें।
Talking of the rising COVID-19 cases across the country, over 1 lakh new cases were registered in the last 24 hours. 8 states including Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh and Punjab have shown a steep rise in the COVID daily new cases. 81.9% of the new cases are reported from these 8 states. Maharashtra has reported the highest daily new cases at 57,074. In a significant development in the fight against COVID-19, the cumulative number of vaccine doses administered in the country is nearing the 8 crore mark. Total vaccination has crossed 7.9 crore mark as on Monday. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath took the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine at Lucknow Civil Hospital, while Maharashtra Governor Bhagat Singh Koshyari took the second dose of COVID-19 jab at Mumbai's JJ Group of Hospitals.
मुझे इस डोज को लेने और उसके बाद में कोई समस्या नहीं हुई। मेरी आप सभी से अपेक्षा है कि आप सभी लोग वैक्सीनेशन कराएं अपना।
हमने वैक्सीन ले लिया है, हमें कोई साइड इफेक्ट नहीं है।
मैं दोनों वैक्सीन में बहुत अच्छा फील कर रहा हूं।
In concerning news, 158 people have been found COVID-19 positive in boarding schools in Chamba, Himachal Pradesh. The recent surge in COVID-19 cases is a major cause of worry for all of us, and the only way we can defeat this deadly virus is by tracking, tracing, testing, maintaining COVID-appropriate behavior at all times, and getting oneself vaccinated when our turn comes. Bureau Report, DD India.
Let's now broaden the ambit of our coverage to talk about the COVID-19 situation worldwide. Now, Europe is struggling to recover from the third wave of the coronavirus pandemic, and parts of Europe are in lockdown mode. The situation is not any better in South Asia either. Bangladesh, for instance, has gone into a lockdown too.
COVID-19 cases are once again on the rise across the globe. Neighbouring Bangladesh has imposed a one-week nationwide lockdown starting Monday to curb the spread of COVID-19. The government had announced that all public transport services, including roads, waterways, railways and domestic flights, will remain suspended during the week-long lockdown in the country. Several European countries are under the grip of third wave of coronavirus. Entire France is under lockdown for last 2 days. Thousands of police officers are deployed across the Paris region to enforce complete lockdown. Police are seen patrolling along the banks of the river Seine and the Saint Martin Canal, two hotspots prone to overcrowding as they are favourites by Parisians looking to take in the warm weather. People who disobey the rules could receive fines of at least 135 euros.
Donc on met en œuvre sur le week-end pascal.
The word of order is of course firmness. It's about firmness because the rules have been brought up and explained for several weeks. We are going to give out fines whenever necessary, especially over the main bans, meaning the non-wearing of masks.
Qui couvre tout le maillage territorial de la région Île-de-France.
In England, everyone will be entitled to take a rapid COVID-19 test twice a week to prevent outbreaks and find those people not displaying symptoms as society reopens and the vaccine rollout continues at its rapid rate. On the other hand, Several countries like Portugal and Greece have begun easing the lockdown.
It was complicated because for me it is essential to have the gym and the machines, and I'm unable to do it outside, so it was difficult for me to be without it. It is very bad and very complicated, not only physically but more so psychologically, because I was used to this routine and then it ended and we were stuck at home. I'm very happy because I like to go out. Not that I stayed inside because of my job. I go out every day, but it's good. It's good.
What is important is that the shops opened, and it's nice under this new system where you send a message, you choose and you get it. It's good.
United States has put Johnson & Johnson in charge of a plant that ruined 15 million doses of its COVID-19 vaccine and has stopped British drug maker AstraZeneca plc from using the facility. In a separate statement late Sunday, Emergent said it expects to align with the US government and AstraZeneca to ram down manufacturing for AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine at its Baltimore plant. Colombia has extended coronavirus restrictions based on intensive care unit occupancy rates amid rising case numbers. The Andean country, which has recorded more than 2.4 million coronavirus cases and nearly 64,000 deaths, has so far administered nearly 2.4 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. Japanese health authorities are concerned that variants of the coronavirus are driving a nascent fourth wave in the pandemic, with just 109 days remaining until the Tokyo Olympics. The variants appear to be more infectious and may be resistant to vaccines, which are still not widely available in Japan. Bureau Report, DD India.
Right, time now for our second In Focus segment, in which we are discussing about India's total vaccination coverage nears 80 million mark. And joining me are two very special guests, Professor K. Vijay Raghavan, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, and Professor Puneeth Mishra from the Department of Community Medicine at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi. Gentlemen, welcome to Newsnight. Professor Vijay Raghavan, if I can start with you, I want you to look back and look ahead at once and help our viewers understand the reasons for the latest spike or the spurt in cases, and what can be done to contain this or combat it. And also, this awareness drive starting tomorrow, how crucial is that going to be?
Thank you. The reasons for the second major surge are simple to understand, but complicated to change our lifestyle to make sure that it doesn't go up and it comes down. And the reasons are simple. We have altered the way we behaved after the first surge started coming down. We did not adhere to masks and social distancing, and those are difficult to do. It's not easy to keep that kind of momentum. But as we become, more lax, given that all of us have not had vaccination yet, the virus starts expanding its domain and is going up again. So this is a balance between our behavior and the virus. The good news is we've got another tool at hand now compared to the first wave. We've got vaccines. So speedy vaccination, getting back to COVID-appropriate behavior will bring down this peak very rapidly if we push on this very hard over the next couple of weeks, which is very important, and we can get back in control.
Right. You've raised a number of points there. Professor Mishra, if I can come to you now. We've spoken about test, trace and treat, the 3 T's for many, many months now. Is that the best option, the best step going forward as well? And do we need more vaccinations as well in the near term?
Yes, let me answer your second part first. And definitely we require more vaccination in coming days, because earlier we had only one tool available with us, that was our social behavior or COVID-appropriate behavior. But now vaccination is a very important tool which we have, and it is quite effective. So definitely, yes, we need to increase the vaccination coverage as fast as we can do. And the other question which you have asked about the strategy, whether should we go test, treat and track strategy. See, right now the infection is widespread. We cannot contain the infection. So the important thing at this stage is that if we can identify the cases who require treatment so that we can reduce mortality, that is very important, because there are two things. One is infection, other is the symptomatic people. There are many people who are asymptomatic and they might have, infection, and that is not quite prevalent. You cannot isolate them, you cannot, contain them because of various reasons. So I think the main focus right now should be on the people who require right kind of treatment, so that despite of all this thing, we can keep our mortality low, and that should be our priority at this stage in the widespread infection all over the country.
Absolutely. Professor Vijay Raghavan, now some people are already calling it the second or third wave. I've lost count, honestly speaking. But how worrisome is it, number one? And number two, how is India comparing with other countries in the world or regions of the world, given the fact that recovery rate is still a high of 92.8%, but worryingly, the number of or the incidence of cases is rising as well?
What we must focus on is not the recovery rate. We have learned substantially over the last year that recovery will be good, and that's not the point of criticality now.
Right.
What's important is right now testing, so that we can make sure that we identify people and their contacts particularly in hotspots on scale, ramping up vaccination in those regions, which is happening, having distances in those regions, which will reduce the growth of cases. These things are very important. If we do all of this, then we can really make sure that we crunch the growth substantially. So this, again and again, it's the same thing. That's what we need to do. It's not of course, it's a matter of great concern, the surge, but merely saying that it's of concern without different levels of state government, city government, municipalities, citizens, housing colonies acting on it, we really need to act on it very, very urgently.
Right. Professor Mishra, how do you as a doctor, as a practitioner of medicine look or view the debate between lockdown and micro-containment zones? Now, which would be a better option going forward in your estimation?
See, right now what I feel that the complete lockdown should be a last resort, and we should not go for it. I think at this stage, if we do micro-containment from where the cases are coming, so that we can stop the spread, or we can reduce the spread rather, and can focus on the treatment of those who require oxygen or other form of hospitalization, so that we can keep our mortality low. See, if you go for total lockdown, then we have seen what has happened. And at that time, the lockdown was necessary last year, because at that time we didn't have that kind of facility available. We had, we got time to, revamp our hospital, to produce more PPE kits and everything. Right now we have all these resources. So lockdown should be the last resort of people that do not listen to us, if they do not, follow the COVID appropriate behavior, and, if situation is going out of control, only then we can think of, and that too in very restricted manner. I mean, not in generalized way we can do. So I think this is the time when micro-containment is okay, along with increasing vaccination as much as we can do, and the COVID appropriate behavior. That is the key to contain the spread and to control this pandemic in the given scenario.
I want to take that same question across to Professor Vijay Raghavan as well. Professor Vijay Raghavan, I want you to weigh in on this debate, lockdown versus micro-containment zone. Is it best left the states themselves to decide the best course of action?
As we just heard, the lockdown earlier on was at the time when PPE, oxygen, ventilators, hospital beds were all in short supply, and we didn't know how to handle the disease. We didn't have vaccines. Testing wasn't scaled. All of that has changed right now. In this situation, what would be appropriate is to identify hotspots, whether it's a housing colony, a factory, a mohalla, and make sure that you have action at that region. If we act very rapidly over the next week, over the next 2 weeks, in such a manner, we can bring things down while vaccinations goes up. So it's up to us in each of these areas, city governments, state governments, to act on this information, which is already available, and bottom-up push to do all these things.
Professor Mishra, there was some talk about vaccine hesitancy among some sections of society in the recent past. Is that still a cause for concern, or you think people are that much more forthcoming and volunteering to come up and turn up for these vaccinations in cities and smaller towns as well?
I think situation is a little better now, because earlier there were a lot of people, they have a lot of questions, they were hesitant to go for the vaccine. But now they have seen that millions of people, they have got vaccine in our country without, any difficulty. And when they have seen that even our Prime Minister, he has taken the vaccine, and there are a lot of dignitaries, they have taken the vaccine, I think this has increased the confidence. And in the meantime, many people who had misconceptions, they got time to clear their doubts, either through, genuine media or through the authentic websites or from the specialist. And I think now more and more people, they have realized that vaccine, yes, it is very important. And I think they are now coming up. Yes, still there is some part of the society who are hesitant about the vaccine, but I think in due course of time, they would understand the importance of vaccine for themselves as well as for their family and the society. And I think very soon the remaining effect of vaccine hesitancy would be over, as more and more people, they'll come forward to take the vaccine.
Professor Vijayaraghavan, we've seen three phases, broad phases of vaccination, starting with the healthcare workers and frontline warriors. Then we saw, elder senior citizens above 60 years of age, or people of 45 years of age with comorbidity, and now everybody above the age of 45. At the same time, there are some reports disconcerting at that of wastage of vaccines, number one. Number two, we have at present 2 vaccines available for use. What are the prospects for more vaccines? Can we expect more vaccines to be made available going forward as well? And will that help?
So state governments are in charge of vaccination centers, and the health ministry has clearly pointed out to them, and they are responding really well now, about how to avoid wastage. If there's a vaccination center in which a very small number of people are going, and you open one last vial which has 10 doses over there, and one person comes in, 9 go waste. But if it's in a huge center where hundreds of people are coming in, and one unit is left with just one person, then 9 still goes waste, but 9 is a part of a very large number. So it's important to coordinate and have vaccination in a manner which is not sparse, but is concentrated by large numbers. And states are doing that well, so wastage will not be a problem very soon. Now, the second point is that there are 2 other vaccines which are coming in from outside the country, the J&J vaccine and the Novavax, and these will be manufactured in large scale and go through appropriate procedures for authorization here. So we'll have more vaccines. In India, the Sputnik vaccine, which Dr. Reddy is manufacturing, is in late stage for approval, and they will apply, they will go through the process soon. And there are other vaccines which are being manufactured in India, which are at verge of approval, of going through the process. All of that and scaling the current capacity means over the next couple of months, you're going to see more and more supply. And these issues of what age group to vaccinate, where to vaccinate, how much, all of that will ease more and more.
Right. Professor Mishra, I was just wondering, are there any lessons learned in terms of best practices that or course correction that one would require, given the fact that we've seen 3 phases of vaccination so far? So in your area of study or interaction, do you feel the need to make a course correction, so to speak, or some changes here and there to make the impact that much more among all the sections of society?
See, now we are going through the third phase of vaccination, and there are a lot of things we have done. You know, initially there was registration only through the COVID software, right? Before that, for the health worker and other things, the list was obtained from the hospitals and other places. But now it has been made quite easy that the people, they can go walk in and they can get vaccination on the same day, even if they don't know how to register on the COVID software. There are a lot of hospitals where these services, they are being provided on 24/7 basis, so that, I mean, it's not that you have to go to the hospital between 9 and 5. So more and more people, they can get benefit of, you know, vaccination. The other thing is, more sites now, they are available to vaccinate people, and all over the country, not only in urban area but in the rural area. So I think the many things we have learned also about the, you know, the vaccination vestige. Now we know, I mean, the centers where there are less number of people, they know how to optimize, you know, the use. If there are only 1 or 2 people coming, they ask them to wait for some more time so that there are more people and they can open the vaccine and we can minimize the, you know, the vaccine wastage. So I think we are going into the right direction, and with our experience for last 2 months or so, we are opening up the avenue so that it is easy for the public, and more people, they can get it. As you see now, all those who are 45 years plus and have no, I mean, no comorbidities, even they can take. And I am quite sure with the increased manufacture and the new vaccines coming, very soon it will be open to other people who are below 45 years of age. So yes, we are progressing. We have learned many things, and we are working on that and moving forward.
Professor Vijay Raghavan, from your vantage, from a scientific perspective, what's your take on reports about new variants coming up in, you know, multiple regions of the world, and some more virulent than the previous version? So do we need to take extra precautions going forward as well?
Yes, indeed. The variants of concern, as they're called, do point to the need for us to be even more vigilant in our behavior, and even more need for speeding up vaccination. As the virus spreads, and it spreads when it has opportunity.
Professor Vijay Raghavan, do hold your thoughts. In news just coming in, the central government has constituted 50 high-level multidisciplinary public health teams and deployed them to 50 districts across Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh and Punjab in view of the recent very large numbers of daily new COVID-19 cases and daily mortality being consistently reported by these states. The teams are being rushed to 30 districts of Maharashtra, 11 districts of Chhattisgarh and 9 districts of Punjab to assist the state health department and local authorities in COVID-19 surveillance, control and containment measures. That's the news just coming in, and we are flashing it on your screens as we speak. 30 districts of Maharashtra, 11 of Chhattisgarh are being covered, and multidisciplinary teams are being formed, including for 9 districts in the state of Punjab. And as I mentioned, the central government is rushing 50 high-level public health teams to these states to contain the spread of the COVID-19 disease. And in more news coming in, the union government has been leading the fight against the global pandemic with a whole of government and whole of society approach under the umbrella strategy of cooperative federalism. Right, so that's the news we are flashing. Teams head to Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh and Punjab. 30 districts of Maharashtra, 11 districts of Chhattisgarh are being covered, in addition to 9 districts in the state of Punjab as well. Right, if I can quickly go back to my guests, Professor Vijay Raghavan and Professor Mishra, for one last time on the discussion. Professor Vijay Raghavan, your thoughts quickly on this news just coming in. Teams rushing to Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh and Punjab in particular.
Greatly help in the coordination and assist the state government and the district machinery in ensuring that all measures, both top down in terms of provision of vaccination, hospital beds and so on, and bottom up in terms of making sure that citizens know what they can do, need to do, and they do that. So these teams will really act at the hotspots, and I'm sure that as they finish their job in these locations, if they are needed in other locations, these teams or other teams will be constituted.
Right. Professor Mishra, before I come to you, a quick recap for our viewers. Teams viewers are being rushed as we speak to 30 districts of Maharashtra, 11 districts of Chhattisgarh, and 9 districts in Punjab to assist the State Health Department and local authorities in COVID-19 surveillance, control and containment measures. Professor Mishra, your thoughts very quickly.
I think this is a very good step that there are 50 teams which have been made and they are being deployed to 3 most affected areas, because they will have a public health specialist and who would be looking at the district specific data and would be helping the district authorities to contain the pandemic in their local area. Besides this, I think government should think on deputing the state level team so that they can assist these teams for, wherever they require, more of, ways to control this pandemic. So what I think, yes, it is a welcome step. And last year also government did these kind of activities and they really helped us to contain the pandemic in many of the states. And that's what my say on this thing.
Right. On that note, Professor Puneet Mishra and Professor Vijay Raghavan, thank you so much once again for making time for us here at DD India. Appreciate it. Right, and just to recap for the benefit of our viewers, the news just coming in, the central government has constituted 50 high-level multidisciplinary teams and deployed them to 50 districts across Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh and Punjab. Right, moving on for now. Tuesday, we'll see Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar hold talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in New Delhi. Lavrov is to spend 2 days in the Indian capital. Now, India and Russia will discuss a host of issues relating to bilateral ties. The emphasis will be on the upcoming India-Russia annual summit, as well as implementation of outcomes of the 20th Russia-India summit held in September 2019 at Vladivostok in Russia. Now, the India-Russia annual summit was postponed last year because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Also on the agenda will be multilateral issues pertaining to the UN, SCO and BRICS, as well as the Russia-India-China trilateral talks. India is currently the chair of BRICS. The Indo-Pacific and Afghanistan may also figure in the discussions.
At the invitation of External Affairs Minister, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will be paying an official bilateral visit to India from April 5th to 6th. The visit will be a unique opportunity to discuss important aspects of our bilateral ties, also the review preparations for the next India-Russia annual summit, and also perhaps discuss regional and international issues of mutual interest.
Meanwhile, U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate John Kerry is set to visit India too. He'll meet several ministers as well as representatives of the union government, the private sector and NGOs for talks on increasing climate ambition ahead of a leaders' summit on climate scheduled for 22nd and 23rd April. Now, a U.S. Embassy spokesperson said Kerry will focus on mitigating fossil fuel use in India and increasing low and zero carbon investments. Listen to what the Indian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi had to say about his visit.
U.S. Special Presidential Envoy on Climate Change, John Kerry, will be visiting Delhi from 5th to 8th April. The purpose of his visit would be to discuss this forthcoming Climate Leaders Summit, as well as climate issues in general in the context of the 26th Conference of Parties of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, which is to be held later this year, the 26th COP. We expect that during his visit, Mr. Kerry will be interacting with several ministers, including External Affairs Minister, the Ministers of Finance, Petroleum and Natural Gas, Environment, Forests and Climate Change, Power, and New and Renewable Energy.
Right, and my colleague Amrit Pal now joins me live for more on these developing stories. Amrit, good to have you on Newsnight. Very quickly, your thoughts on Sergei Lavrov's visit. Has he arrived in New Delhi yet? What could be on the agenda tomorrow when they meet here for talks, and the likely outcomes from those talks as well?
We are told that Sergei Lavrov, Ramesh, is expected to arrive in a short while from now. As you say, he will be meeting the External Affairs Minister tomorrow. Later, he'll also be calling on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, this visit is being seen as a visit to review the bilateral relationship. We have an all-encompassing relationship, a political, economic, trade and investment, and a very special privileged strategic partnership. Defense is of which defense is an important component. So, Minister Lavrov will be discussing all this with Minister Jaishankar tomorrow when the two leaders sit and meet for this. Also, he shall be setting the agenda for the next India-Russia annual summit, which is slated for later this year. So, the whole range of issues. We have many defense projects which are in the pipeline, ranging from the S-400 defense missile systems to the production of AK-47 203 rifles in India. All this is expected apart from cooperation at multilateral fora, as you listed out, at the UN, at BRICS, at RIC, and also, issues related to the region, Asia Pacific. The Quad meeting has happened. Russia was closely watching the Quad meeting, so Asia Pacific could come up for discussion. Afghanistan, remember, he's coming along with him is the special envoy, Russia's special envoy to Afghanistan, Kabulov, after there were concerns raised that Russia did not involve India in the negotiations in Afghanistan. So from that perspective, it's an important visit. So these are the range of issues that could come up tomorrow when he holds talks with the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar.
Also, Amrit, in the time of the COVID pandemic, it's rare for world leaders to actually make in-person visits. And here we have two leaders, one from Russia, one from the US, converge on New Delhi, but with different agendas. We're talking about John Kerry's forthcoming visit to India. What might be on the agenda and what can we expect in his interactions here in New Delhi, Amrit?
Ramesh, as you know, John Kerry is President Biden's or the US's special envoy on climate. He comes to India for a 4-day visit, to talk to the government, to non-government organizations, to other players in climate change. He'll be spending 4 days here, talking to various ministers. Prakash Javadekar, the Environment Minister, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. He's expected to hold talks with Petroleum Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. Apart from that, with NGOs and other corporate sector players, where he essentially talks about how India and the US can partner in bringing about climate change. He's expected to look at supporting India in its mission to mitigate the use of fossil energy. His visit comes ahead of President Biden's climate summit, in which on the 22nd and 23rd, as you mentioned, in which Prime Minister Modi will also be participating virtually and ahead of the COP26 meeting. So it will be setting agenda. He's going to these countries to look at how, for example, India can be an important partner of the United States in mitigating climate change, because that is a key focus of the Biden administration. That is a departure from how Trump saw it. He's back into the climate change negotiations. So the growing partnership of India and the United States in various fields, climate change is a very important component of that, and John Kerry's visit is being seen in that context. Ramesh?
Absolutely, absolutely. On that note, Amrit, thank you so much for that update. Appreciate it. That was my colleague Amrit Pal Singh with all the latest on the Sergei Lavrov and John Kerry visits to India. And talking about climate, last month, John Kerry himself said that even if the world did everything pledged under the Paris Agreement, the Earth's temperature would still rise by around 3.7 degrees Celsius this century. He described the challenge of reaching net zero emissions by 2050 as a global one.
We can't just willy-nilly ignore the next 10 years. Why? Because once again, the scientists tell us that if we don't do enough in these 10 years, we cannot keep the Earth's temperature at 1.5 degrees. And if we do not do enough in the next 10 years, we cannot even get on a roadmap to net zero by 2050, because no country can reduce the emissions sufficiently with the curve you have after 2030 if we don't do enough now. This challenge is global. Never has there been a challenge that requires the unity of countries all across the planet to do this than now. We can do it.
And staying with the subject of climate change, the Indian Meteorology Department in its review for the month said that the observed monthly average maximum, minimum and mean temperature for the country as a whole during March this year was 32.65 degrees Celsius, 19.95 degrees Celsius and 26.3 degrees Celsius respectively, against a normal of 31.24 degrees Celsius, 18.87 degrees Celsius and 25.06 degrees Celsius based on the climatology period between 1981 and 2010. The All India average monthly maximum temperature during March 2021 is the warmest in 11 years and the third warmest in the last 121 years, with 2010 and 2004 as the ever warmest and second warmest months respectively. Moving on, the third phase of election would take place in Assam and West Bengal on Tuesday. Polling will begin at 7 in the morning. In Assam, 337 candidates, including 25 women, are in the fray for 40 constituencies spread over 12 districts. Over 79.19 lakh voters will decide the fate of these candidates. A total of 11,401 polling stations have been set up. And in West Bengal, polling will begin at 7 and end at 6:30 in the evening. 31 constituencies spread across 3 districts, Hooghly, Howrah and South 24 Parganas, will go to the polls in the third phase. 205 candidates, including 13 women, are in the fray in this phase. And polling for the single-phase elections in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, as well as Union Territory of Puducherry, along with the Lok Sabha by-poll for Kanyakumari in Tamil Nadu and Malappuram in Kerala, will also be held simultaneously. The Election Commission has decided to use voter-verifiable paper audit trail along with electronic voting machines at every polling station, with a view to enhance the transparency and credibility of the election process. Now, VVPAT allows the voter to verify his or her vote. The arrangements have already been made to ensure availability of adequate number of EVMs and VVPATs for the smooth conduct of the elections. And my colleague Ravi Dhiman gets the exclusive report from Kochi in the poll-bound state of Kerala. Take a look.
All preparations are in place as we stand here in a girls' high school in Kochi. The election material is being distributed to the polling agents and to the presiding officers from this very desk. This is the attendance desk, and after that they are being directed to 2 halls here where they will be issued the polling materials, which includes the EVM machines, other materials which they will take to their own polling booths to which they have been assigned. And this process will continue through the day. We'll try to show you the distribution of the polling material, where the presiding officers and the polling officers will come, receive their material, and they'll proceed for their polling booths and polling stations. This entire thing is for Ernakulam constituency, the constituency which falls in this district near the vicinity of Kochi city. And here all the preparations are being done as we speak. You can see with cameraman Shankar, Ravi Dhiman, DD India, Kochi.
Moving on, the BJP has junked the claims made by the Congress party of the purchase of the Rafale jets. Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad on Monday dismissed as completely baseless the allegations appearing in French media reports that payoffs were made to middlemen in the Rafale aircraft deal. Attacking Congress's Rahul Gandhi, Prasad said the Supreme Court had rejected a demand for a probe in the purchase of the fighter aircraft, and the Comptroller Auditor General or CAG had also found nothing wrong in the deal.
कांग्रेस पार्टी फिर राफेल की बात कर रही है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट में तो हार गए, सीएजी ने भी फिर उसको रिजेक्ट कर दिया। 2019 के चुनाव में राफेल जहाज का मॉडल बना करके पूरे हिंदुस्तान में घूमे और क्या-क्या गालियां बची हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी को, फिर भी बुरी तरह से हार गए। राहुल गांधी जी होमवर्क नहीं करते हैं। तो लगता है कि उनके प्रवक्तागण और बाकी लोग भी होमवर्क नहीं करते हैं। एक कोई जर्नल है जो उसने इस बात को कही है, लेकिन सबसे मजेदार बात यह है कि उसने सुषेन गुप्ता का नाम लिया है। सुषेन गुप्ता, ये गुप्ता महाशय कौन है? जिनको अगस्ता वेस्टलैंड में इंडियन एजेंसी ने गिरफ्तार किया था। कब किया था? 2019 में। तो हमारी सरकार के समय गिरफ्तार हुए हैं। और अगस्ता वेस्टलैंड में परिवार के लोगों का भी नाम आया था ना, याद है डायरी में कि नहीं आया था? और ये सुषेन गुप्ता कौन है? तो सलमान खुर्शीद ने तो पब्लिकली कहा है कि हम इसके परिवार को जानते हैं।
Moving on, Indian Railways set an important construction milestone on Monday with the completion of the steel arch of the iconic Chenab Bridge, one of the most difficult parts of the bridge over River Chenab in Jammu and Kashmir. The achievement is a major leap towards the completion of the 111-kilometer-long winding stretch from Katra to Banihal. It's arguably the biggest civil engineering challenge faced by any railway project in India in recent history.
Indian Railways engineering marvels set to become the world's highest bridge. The Chenab Bridge has completed a major milestone. The construction of Chenab Bridge's majestic arches were completed on Sunday. The Chenab Rail Bridge is amongst the world's highest and will be completed by next year. The bridge has been constructed in hostile terrain, and the massive arch-shaped structure needed over 28,660 metric tons of steel for construction.
किसी भी आर्च ब्रिज में आर्च उसकी सबसे महत्वपूर्ण आइटम होता है, क्योंकि सारा लोड आर्च पे आता है। इस स्थान पे डिजाइनर्स ने स्टडी किया था और उनको आर्च के अलावा कोई अन्य तरीका नहीं समझ में आया था, क्योंकि इतने ऊंचे आप पिलर्स नहीं बना सकते। ये लोकेशन बहुत डिफिकल्ट लोकेशन है। आपने देखा ही होगा, यहाँ पे एक्सेसिबिलिटी की बहुत बड़ी समस्या थी। यहाँ पे पहुँचने के लिए 22 किलोमीटर की प्रोजेक्ट रोड इस साइड तक पहुँचने के लिए बनाई है।
The 1.3 kilometer long bridge, which is built with cost over 1,486 crore rupees, is part of an ambitious 272 kilometer Udhampur-Srinagar-Baramulla rail link project. The estimated height of the bridge stands at 359 meters, which is 35 meters higher than the height of the Eiffel Tower in Paris.
इसको बनाने में फ्रॉम डे वन बहुत से चैलेंजेस है। सबसे पहले कि ये ब्रिज यहाँ बने कि नहीं बने, आर्च बने या कोई और तरीके का ब्रिज बने, ये सब डिस्कशन बहुत साल पहले बहुत से सीनियर सिविल इंजीनियर्स ने इसके डिस्कशन में किया। यहाँ की नीचे की रॉक जो है इतने सालों से, हजारों साल से चेनाब नदी ने इस जगह को काटा है, लेकिन ये रॉक को नहीं काट पाई। इसका ये मतलब है कि नेचर इज टेलिंग अस दैट दिस इज द सेफेस्ट प्लेस, द स्ट्रॉन्गेस्ट प्लेस टू बिल्ड अ ब्रिज फाउंडेशन। रेलवे में आर्च ब्रिज इस साइज के कभी पहले बने नहीं है। 4-5 कंट्रीज के एक्सपर्ट्स ने इसकी डिजाइनिंग करी है और हम ये आशा करते हैं कि अगले 1 साल के अंदर, करीब इसी टाइम अगले साल ये ब्रिज कंप्लीट हो जाएगा।
The bridge will also be able to withstand earthquakes with a magnitude of up to 8 and high-intensity blasts. It will provide the much-needed all-weather connectivity between Kashmir and the rest of the country. After the completion, trains will be able to run at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. The bridge holds even greater importance because of the link with 111-kilometer-long Katra-Banihal rail section. With Nishant Saurabh, Bureau Report, DD India.
And with that, it's a wrap. But news continues here on DD India. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. Don't forget, it's a simple task. Just wear a mask. Join DD India's Mask Up campaign to beat COVID-19. You can see it on the top left-hand corner of your screen. Remember, wear a mask, wash your hands and practice physical distancing. Now is not the time to be adventurous. Now's the time for abundant precaution. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you.